evening, good morning, or good afternoon, everybody all over the world from where you are. This is Haila Mariam, the chairperson of the TORG IRB, representing the TORG Global for today's our Congress. We really are delighted to have you around. Please, to introduce the Operating Theatre Global is a global foundation where we come across with different worlds, with different specialties, which include multidisciplinary team, the surgeons, anesthetists, periop nurse, educators, researchers, and all stakeholders in the global field of perioperative service. So we are currently joined by participants of different countries at about 42 different sites all over the Asia, all over Europe, all over Africa, all over different parts of North America. So we really are delighted to have you all. So today our session is going to be the second Global Research Ethics Congress, where we are going to have productive discussions, where we are going to have insight from our experts. And also this is a place where we are going to engage ourselves in the question and answer part. So please allow me to open the remark or our Congress on behalf of the TORG leadership and also on the behalf of TORG IRB members. Okay, so on course of our stay, we are going to have 2 presenters, and also we are going to have 5 panelists pertaining to our global research ethics and compliance. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, our TORG leadership, our CEO, Education and Training Unit, and also TORG IRB and all stakeholders who are getting engaged and being prepared for this Congress. So I really appreciate the active participation of all of you guys. And during our question and answer part, please feel free to drop down your questions, your feedbacks, your insight in the chat box. And in the meantime, by the end of our Congress, you are going to be certified as per our protocol. So before I start the Congress, please allow me to give you insights regarding our the Operating Theatre Global Research Ethics and Compliance units. This unit was founded 2024 with the ultimate goal of safeguarding our study subjects and the ultimate goal of increasing our integrity of research, and also with the ultimate goal of enhancing research quality across the perioperative phase. It's nationally and multinationally also. Okay, so this unit has got different specialties within it. We have anesthetists, surgeons, public health experts, administration specialists, social service, a lot of experts are there in this research group. And this ethics was work under the global principle of international standard, where it has been certified. So we are eligible to provide ethical research paper or ethical research verification for research are coming across from the globe, be it is a national or multinational, be it is a steady, be it is a hello, can you hear me please? I have small network issue.
Yes, yes, proceed.
Yeah, across different steady design, okay? All right, that's nice. So today, as we set our agenda, as I said, we have 2 speakers with different research insights, and also we are going to have 5 panelists, which we are going to have. Definitely, we are going to have a productive discussion. So please allow me to start the session with the first, our speaker, who is Dr. Kevin Miko, who is a secretary of meeting documentation at TORG IRB. Okay, so Dr. Miko is a physician who earned his Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Doctor of Medicine from University of Santa Fe Thomas, and currently pursuing his MPH from University of Hong Kong. So he has clinical experience as hemodialysis emergency room physician at Zambonga Doctor Hospital, and is actively involved in public health research, mental health advocacy, and medical education across various organizations. So he served as Deputy Director of Community Development at Mental Health and Secretary for Meeting and Documentation at TORG IRB, while he also holds leadership in role of regional, national, medical student, and public health organizations. So Dr. Miko's research focus on mental health, suicidal prevention, global health system, with the goal of integrating clinical practice into public health advocacy. Please allow me to give the floor to Dr. Miko. He is going to address his insight on strengthening IRB governance, effective documentation, review process, and compliance. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Miko.
All right. Thank you so much, Haile Mariam, for that introduction. So I believe now I'll be sharing my slides here. Yeah. I believe, can everyone see my slides here? Is this all clear? Maybe someone can just chat. Yeah. All right. So good morning, good day, good afternoon, evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. So thank you all for having me. So as I start here, I would just like to put a disclaimer that the views shared in this presentation are my own and they reflect my own experiences. They might not necessarily apply to every context, institution, or setting. So as I start here, I would like to invite everyone in a story here. So just imagine yourself, whatever your role is, wherever you work, at some point in time, you may have had an idea for a study. Maybe it came from something you saw in the clinic, maybe from a question that no one had answered yet. Either way, you sat down and wanted to do something about it. And then you looked at some blank form in front of you and thought, where do I even start? That feeling right there is where this topic begins. It's not about policies, not with frameworks, not about rules. It's just that moment, sitting at the desk, a pen in hand, maybe your computer right in front of you, not knowing what comes next. So, does that sound familiar for everyone? So, I'm not here to present this in some type of formal lecture. I'm here to walk through everyone on what actually happens when someone tries to start a study. So, and it comes down to these three moments that every study goes through: documentation, review, and compliance. These are just the three things that turn a good idea into research that actually matters. And if any one of them is missing, then that idea just stays that, just an idea. So you try to submit your study. That's just the first door right in front of you. And behind it is just a pile of requirements that no one even warned you about. Consent form, protocol, data management plan, another explanation, and no idea on what goes where. You just want to do the right thing. You're not cutting corners. You don't know the steps yet. And it's just only getting started there. It only becomes more confusing from there. You find a template, then someone sends you another one. Which version of the protocol is the latest one? What consent form matches the latest amendment? Without proper documentation and version control, no one knows, not even you. At some point, may even gotten lost throughout the process. So, ethics, protocol, data, all these doors. No idea on what to open first. And at this point, you're not just confused because you're doing something wrong. You're confused because no one knows what, or has even shown you what is the right order yet. And it is this reason why good governance is designed to solve. So, what is IRB governance? If you have ever submitted a study, reviewed a study, or waited for an approval for a study, you may have already encountered IRB governance. You may not just have called it that or just aware of it at some point. So you just, let's say, look at this board here and think, who built all these steps? That is governance. Someone designed a path. You will not have to figure it out alone. This is the system behind the system. The reason your study can be trusted, reviewed, and eventually used by the people it was meant to help. So, nobody likes to sit down and just write some random data management plan. Most people just have not been shown what the ideal one looks like. So, something to think about. Where does the data go? Who can access it? What happens to it when the study ends? If that plan does not answer those questions, it's not even a plan yet. So it all comes down to these three things: a clear protocol with a version and date, a consent process, not just a simple form, but a genuine moment of understanding between the researcher and the participant. And of course, a data plan with actual answers. The one thing that is worth noting here is the data plan. Something like saying the data will be kept safe and just that. But of course, we're going to need more details there. Safe how? Stored where? Online or some way in paper documents? And who has access to it? Those are the burning questions. The Declaration of Helsinki talks about protecting participants. The Belmont Report talks about respect, beneficence, and justice. So what does that look like in practice? It's just these slide here. I just gave the simplified, abridged version of it. So why does it matter? Because at the end of the day, this study's not just for some paperwork or just a requirement or just to score another publication or from random funding. You started it because you may want to help someone to benefit from here. And the documentation, the review, or the compliance is missing, that help never reaches them. So, having experience in the emergency department, this I can tell you. Before anyone even gets treated in the first place, someone has to assess the situation first. That itself is triage. And of course, an IRB review works the same way. It's not just about blocking the study or just making it more difficult. It is asking the right questions before it moves forward. What are the risks? Who is protected? What happens if anything goes wrong? This is not meant to be confrontational questions. These are just the questions that make your study safer, stronger, and even more credible. The person who may be reading your protocol is not there to just make it more challenging for you. They are there because they want your study to hold up. But what happens when the feedback comes more than once? So multiple rounds of feedback, they're not really delays per se. They're a series of reviews, approvals, and quality checks. Each one handled by a different person for a different reason, whether it can be their area of expertise or anything similar. Think of it like just waiting for your grades, in, let's say in school or in the university. It's not just one person marking your results. It is a series, a process, a chain. Let's say the professor marks it. then perhaps their boss also marks it, then the department marks it, then the board eventually approves it, then it reaches you. Of course, that depends on where you are. This may look different on the context, but the idea and the bottom line here is just the same. It passes through more than one set of hands, and that set of hands is there for a different reason. So, how to make it work? You see a checklist and think, that is a lot. But you do not take all of it all at once. You do it as you go. Compliance is not some final exam or some grand test. It's attendance. And this is the door that people forget to open. Not just because it doesn't really matter, but because no one really is aware much of is it really there in the first place. So, you finished the study. The results were strong. Congratulations. You try to submit it for publication. Then someone asks, where's the ethics approval number? When was the last amendment filed? The answers exist somewhere, but they are not documented. And without that trail, that kind of work cannot move forward. This has already happened to someone, let's say, someone watching this or someone listening to this now, or maybe someone you know, a colleague, or even a study that was not just good enough to publish but could not because the compliance trail was incomplete. So, compliance system comes down to these three things. First, you track your dates. Report the changes before you make them. And keep a record that tells the whole story of your study, from protocol to publication. The one that matters most is the last one here. Keep the one that keeps a record that tells the whole story. And throughout this presentation, you may have noticed the way how it's structured, from all the stick figures, all the what seems like the doors, the journey, the cartoon animations. It seems unconventional, but it was by design. Because compliance is not just about some single document. It is about the full record, telling the whole story of your study from start to finish. That is exactly what this presentation is doing the entire time. So a compliance system does not need to be complicated. It just needs to be consistent. So with this, whether you're just starting out, somewhere in the middle of your career, or decades on your work, that moment is the same. The moment your work lands, the sign here does not just say approved. It could be your ethics clearance, your IRB approval, let's say your first publication, a grant funding. The moment your research actually reaches someone who needed it. And the people around you helped it get there. This is every milestone your research can reach. And the system behind it is strong enough to carry it there. So if you are watching this and have a study idea waiting to be realized and become reality, this is for you. And with that, I thank you. Back to you, Han.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kevin, for addressing the very important insight of the global research ethics and compliance with respect to the global framework. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. So with all due respect of Dr. Kevin, I'm going to take you to our second speaker, Mr. Siraj Ahmed Ali. Mr. Siraj Ahmed Ali going to take us to the second speaking point of ethical challenge in multinational and resource limiting setting. So Mr. Siraj is a senior anesthetist, lecturer, researcher with over 30 years of experience in anesthesia, education, clinical service, and community service also. He is currently serves as a lecturer of anesthesia at Dilla University, and in the meantime, he is a PhD fellow from Gondar University. He has held a key leadership, including clinical service coordinator, department head, and CD office lead. Siraj is actively contributing to professional bodies of the international and national leadership, being a president of Ethiopian Anesthetists Association, and in the meantime, is a board member of Professional Association Alliance. Alongside his role, national and international, he engaged in curriculum development, clinical protocol design, and capacity building training. With his experience in research, ethics, national and international level, he delivers expertise on ethics challenge in multinational and resource limiting setting. Mr. Siraj, with all protocol observed, please over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ailamaran, for your nice introduction. And good day, everybody from all over the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for all. I will have a few speech on ethical challenges in research, on especially multinational risk studies and studies in resource limited settings. So let me share my presentation. Is this visible? So, is this visible? Okay,
Yes.
so,
Yes. Proceed.
Yes, it's clear and visible, please.
Within coming few minutes, I will try to discuss a few issues on ethical challenges in international and resource limited research settings. So few points to be discussed are ethics in multinational studies and challenges of studies in multinational resource limited settings, and what should be in the future regarding studies that has been full of challenges, coming with limitations and navigation of circumstances with that hinders researchers to be visible globally. So, as we know, research ethics actually is a framework to ensure investigators to protect study participants, maintaining scientific integrity and respect of public trust. Because if somebody has a study conducted with few integrity mishaps with their subjects and questioned, then future study will be under question. So researchers should balance universal ethical standards with local cultural norms, even though there may be plans to conduct studies with collaboration in multiple country studies. So there should be a protection of vulnerable populations, and there should be an insurance or confirmation of the studies that conducted in anywhere should benefit the host community primarily, because the primary study community should have a primary benefit of the study outcome. And to ensure these studies outcomes should be rigorous and develop a public trust, there should be establishment of independent group to confirm the compliance of any study conducted with human subjects. That is based on the international and national guidelines of study. So this independent group to confirm and follow the compliance of regulations and international guidelines of a study conducted on any human subjects is called institutional review board or institutional review committees, and this IRBs ensures the study compliance with ethical standards. As we know, there are various principles, policy, and standards of current research ethics, starting from Nuremberg to the standards of to the current good clinical practice. Dr. Kevin has raised.
Dear Siraj, will you please be loud? Sorry to interrupt you. Will you please be louder, small? I do appreciate.
Thank you. So I'll try to increase my voice. It's audible now. Okay. So when we see the ethics in multinational studies, that means the studies involving study subjects from various countries and various nations. This research studies needs vital for addressing global issues, especially contexts from various countries, various nations, and also settings. So they are very crucial for designing international policies and even the clinical trials on human body, and they are very crucial. And to even they are enable studies community and scientific community all over the world to check how our human health system is culturally compatible, and it also how study subjects are compatible to resource levels in different countries, and also to confirm socio-economic vulnerabilities of study subjects. So the primary ethical objective in multinational studies is exploitation, avoiding exploitation of study subjects, while ensuring that the genuine and production of mutual benefit in collaboration of study settings from all over the countries that have been involved in multinational studies. But studies in multinational level or multi-country studies are not as easy as we say, and as not without any challenge. There are various challenges arise from collaboration of multi-country studies, and the issues usually may cause from suggested the imbalance between high-income country and low-income country collaborations. This may be the cause for challenges of studies conducted in multinational studies. And the other cause usually assumed to be a type of challenge is studies conducted in developing country populations by the developed country investigators and also sponsors of industries from the developed world to the studies conducted in developing countries may be a sort of challenge of studies that hinders the proper outcome of those studies, addressing the predefined guidelines that maintains the outcome of those studies to ensure benefit of the primary study population. So, and the other also assumed to be the source of challenge in studies conducted multinational is requirement of multi-political approvals and policy differences from one country to the other and one setting to the other setting. So whenever we have studies sponsored by institutions from developed countries conducted in developing nations and developing populations, especially if the study primary investigators are from the developed world, usually we have to be curious, and there may be rise of ethical vulnerabilities that should be in question. So the real challenge due to those assumed causes in studies in multinational and resource limited settings is selection of control and treatment subjects. Whenever a study is conducted in multinational studies, there is an issue of challenge in assignment of the study subjects to be in the treatment and the control groups. Because there may be a difference in actually whether it be an international standard, high-level standard of care, or does that study subjects in the treatment group should be in the local protocol. So this usually is a source of challenge, and it affects even the study report and outcomes. And also the dissemination of that study outcome in publication and professional conference also be a source of discussion and ambiguities during how that study has been conducted, whether that is based on the international treatment protocol or the local treatment protocol. That may be the reason for different reports from the same study in various settings and countries. And the other real challenge is the complex intersection of scientific advancement in one setting, which is usually assumed to be in high-income countries, and the same study, the same concept, the same area, research gap in developed and developing areas. And the other issue that has arisen as a challenge in studies of conducted studies in multinational, usually one of the nations with resource limited setting is cultural differences. That cultural difference may be a real cause of a challenge, as obvious. And the other one, a real challenge faced during studies conducting in multinational and resource limit setting is profound socioeconomic disparities, and it will affect also all the study processes and also the outcome and the reports and also the dissemination of those outcomes. The other issue is informed consent. Informed consent may affect the study that is conducted in multinational and resource limited settings because in some areas, due to various differences, the individual consent may be depend on individual study subject, whereas in some area, that individuals even voluntarism may be affected by the community leaders and the group leaders also. So if you want to take a consent from an individual to be included in a study, there may be an area where the group leader is responsible, and we also need to approve the individual's voluntarism to be included in a study conducted in the area. And also the studies need to be a real challenge whenever we plan longitudinal studies starting from now and continue to be in the future. For example, aging and cognitive studies in Alzheimer and the likes. Maybe the concept may be taken today, and the study will continue for years, and the study subjects have no more competent enough after the year and 2 years. And this is a real challenge that the result of that subject or that individual after years where they have been no more competent to get real individual consent is workable or not. And the other one is double standards of care is a real challenge. In some study settings, there is a high standard of care where patients get internationally accredited, internationally agreed cares, where in other settings, the local protocols are not as much standardized in the area where other subjects have been getting treatment. So this is a real challenge also. And the other is after study benefits. After study benefits may be a real challenge. Study concluded in the area, primary assumed to benefit the study subjects in the primary study population, but community exploitation at the end of the trial or study benefits after the end of study is also a real challenge. Generally, we can summarize the challenges in two issues. The first thing is power and resource imbalance between high-income countries and low-income countries. This is assumed to be a reason and a source of the challenges in studies conducted in multinationals and resource-limited settings, from whether they are sponsored or supported from the investors in high-income countries, and whether the primary investigators are from developed countries. And the other important and real challenge assumed to be the source of difference and challenges is research ethics committees, guidelines, and rules differences. For example, if we conduct a study in the primary healthcare setting, and the IRB is from the tertiary care, where we have, for example, the university hospitals, and the university has their IRB, and the study is getting ethical clearance from the university hospital, but the real study, the primary study area is the rural area. So the district level health administration may have different views and different aspects when we compare with our ethical clearances from the tertiary cares. So this may affect our study, even the outcomes of the study. So saying this, there are various challenges arise for various reasons when we plan collaborative researches from high level, high income and low income countries, also between low income countries and low income countries. So we need to find out solutions and suggest way forward. This the very beginning, there should be careful planning of collaborative research, where we plan to study and aggregate the research guideline references and the likes. And there is also a need to have a strong IRB, where it's the study, the IRB ensures safety of study subjects and ensures the researchers' compliance with international and national research guidelines, and also ensure the safety and primary benefit of the population where the study is conducted. So the end of study benefits should be well stated at the proposal level or in the protocol, and well stated it, then it should be also followed strictly, assessed, evaluated by the IRB, where the study is getting ethical clearance to be conducted. Another issue is alignment of guidelines before the start of the study and transparency of the process all over the study period. Thank you, everybody. This is what I have for our session. Thank you, Mr. Chekman and the audiences.
Thank you, Mr. Siraj, coming across with this multi-casual and complex challenges we are facing as a multinational and also low resource limiting setting area of conducting research as a research ethics. We do really appreciate with that insight, and lately, I hope the participant will come across with questions, feedback, and additional point also. Let me put that assignment for our participants, okay? So, as you all know, the Lancet's Global Commission stated that 5 billion people are lacking surgery. 5 billion people in the world lack surgery. And one of the reasons they said is that the reason that the lack of surgery there is lack of global studies. For that lack of global studies, they say research retraction and low research ethics was a contributing factor, okay? So that is why I think the Operating Global was formed. Now currently operating in 110 countries. It has about 260,000 members and have more than 42 type of cadres and specialties all across the world. So we really do appreciate the insights, and I hope I'm here to take you to our panelists, appreciating all our speakers, Dr. Kevin and Mr. Siraj. We really appreciate your insight, point, and discussion. And lately, I think we are going to come with question and answers. So please allow me to take you through our panelists. We have 6 panelists for the next session, which they are more interested in ethics governance in the global research, multinational research oversight and collaboration. We are going to see also protection of vulnerable populations, and we can see how data confidentiality will be maintained. And lately, we are going to address the point of practical challenge we are facing. Please allow me our panelists, Dr. Abid Ashraf, Assistant Professor Dammaka Ilika, Dr. Nagat Amsalu, Mr. Amara Balata, and Mr. Masfan Ababa. Please allow me also to go one by one so that I can come across with their bio of their respected areas. So our first panelist going to be Dr. Abid Ashraf. Dr. Abid Ashraf is specialist general surgeon and chairperson of surgical division at Gulf Asian Medical Center of Saudi Arabia, with extensive experience in clinical practice, surgical leadership, and he is a member of Royal College of Surgeons at Edinburgh, and reflecting his commitment of professional excellence and high standard. He is actively contributed to surgical education, educational committee member of Upper GI Surgical Society, and supporting training best practice in gastrointestinal surgery. He is also served as member of the operating room global institution as a member. So, Mr. Dr. Ashraf, will you please, if you are going to hear us, we want to see your video to be in front.
Hello.
Nice to see you, Dr. Abid Ashraf.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words. I guess I'm pretty audible.
Yes, sure. You are pretty audible, please. So, Dr. Abid, the question for you is that from clinical and patient care perspective, what do you consider to be the most important ethical consideration research must prioritize, especially when it's conducting surgical or perioperative studies? And also considering most of the study are conducted in lower resource setting. Over to you.
Thank you so much. First of all, thanks for the illuminating talks we just listened to. And I would like to make few points, particularly with regards to the ethical governance and, when we talk about low resource settings. So in surgical research, particularly, it's pretty much easy to get caught up in the paperwork, like filling out the consent forms and other things. But out there in the real world, and especially when it comes to operating on patients, doing surgeries on patients, ethical governance is an active clinical safety net that protects our patients. When you look at low resource settings, the absolute priority has to be how we actually handle informed consent and respect for patient autonomy. And to be honest, we have to understand the difference in power dynamics over here. In a lot of these underprivileged communities where, access to quality medical care is still a challenge, patients face massive structural vulnerabilities. And often those might be, in the form of limited medical literacy, or there are, instances where in such communities, people see the surgeon authority figure. And that actually leads to what we call as therapeutic misconception, wherein a patient thinks, like, if I don't get to sign this research consent form, I won't get my surgery done. So that's where clinical integrity comes into play. And we have to break that down. We have to completely separate the research trial or the research protocol from the standard medical care. And we have to ensure that the patient knows in plain terms that saying no to research participation will never ever compromise their treatment. And the second thing that I want to talk about is, assessing the risk-benefit balance. And this is very important. And this is where patient safety most often hits the ground in the surgical domain. See, a surgical protocol that looks perfectly safe on paper in a very high resource setting can be, incredibly risky in an environment that lacks a reliable infrastructural backup to deal with the potential complications that may arise during the performance of the procedures as envisaged in the study. So as researchers, our clinical decision-making cannot happen in a vacuum. That we have to understand. We can't just ask if the scientific protocol or the scientific trial or the research that you have contemplated is innovative or not. We have to look around the room and ask if we have the immediate infrastructure to rescue that patient if something goes wrong during the performance of the study. And in the surgical domain, this would mean doing a surgical procedure. So ultimately, integrity means that we have to ensure that this desire for research innovation does not outpace our basic capacity to keep the human being in front of us safe. So I guess that answers the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abid. So just contemplate everything all together with the frame of protecting human rights and the practice also. Thank you very much. I hope the participants will have a question for you. I will back to you. So please allow me our second panelist, Assistant Professor Dammaka Ilkay. He is Assistant Professor of Anesthesiology and Chief Anesthesia Professional from University of Gondar with experience of 12 years in anesthesia and critical care. Dammaka has published more than 30 peer-reviewed studies so far in perioperative pain management and contributing in the field of research in perioperative areas. His leadership has been instrumental in strengthening anesthesia education, improving service delivery. In addition to his academic and clinical role, he serves as executive board member of Ethiopian Association of Anesthetists, and also he is integral part of our IRB, TORG IRB. So his professional work driven by strong commitment improving in patient outcome and advanced clinical care and clinical education, especially in resource limiting setting. Dammaka, will you please show up? Okay, all right. So Dammaka, considering your clinical expertise for the past 12 years, for more than a decade in perioperative research, so how important is scientific validity in determining ethical acceptability of the study? And from your experience, what are common methodological weaknesses IRB are frequently encountering? Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hailemariam or Chairperson, for this chance. So let me start by saying one proverb, which is Benjamin Friedman, who is a bioethics expert, said that a poorly designed study is, by definition, unethical. So when you think of research, we will first think of its ethical acceptability. So if a study is scientifically flawed, it can yield a very good result. This means any risk posed to participants, even minimal risk, is entirely unjustified because the research holds no social or scientific values. Is that audible?
Yes, please carry on. It's clear from our end.
So thank you again. Scientific validity is just not a technical requirement by definition. It is the absolute ethical threshold a study must traverse throughout its entire process. So with a common as part of an IRB member, an active participant of an IRB member of court, we encounter different methodological faults or methodological failures. To summarize, we can classify into four just for mere for today's discussion. So the first and the usual problem is it is poor objective or vague objectives. So usually research should have a smart objective, possibly with smarter, with time bounded. So if the objective is not smart enough to address the research question, this will end up with poor results, resulting in zero benefits. So when think of benefit and risk ratios, this will end up with zero benefit, and maybe it will end up with a poor outcome for the human, for the participant, for the client, for the study participant. So the first thing we usually encounter is objective problems or vague objectives. And the second one is sample size. Usually, while we go through the review, we face unjustified sample sizes. So the sample size should be scientifically powered and will address the research question. Unjustified sample size will result in poor result. So the sample size should not be guess. It should be calculated. It should be powered. It shouldn't be guess. So unjustified sample size are the second most problem we encountered, and either small or very large sample sizes will not give scientifically sound result. So usually individuals may increase the sample size just to increase their acceptability, but the truth is not that much, not that way. So the truth is the sample size should be calculated and powered so that we can mouthfully speak our results give us a very good output or result. So the third important thing is lack of feasibility. So a feasibility of a study is one part of integral part of research ethics. We usually encounter lack of feasibility. Research usually underestimates their timeliness. It should be bounded by time, and budget constraints should be addressed in detailed fashion. Or access to the target population should be also be well narrated. So that lack of feasibility should be avoided. Unfeasible study usually in this incomplete results. It will waste our resource, and it will also affect the participants' goodwills. So the fourth one, I think, is poor dissemination plan. So when you think of research ethics, when you think of our dissemination plans, ethical research requires responsible publication or dissemination to the community. So as an IRB frequently see protocols that neglect how results especially navigate or null finding will be shared with the scientific community and participants by themselves. So we need to think of dissemination plans. So these are the major faults or major drawbacks we usually encounter while we review different researches. And we need to also think of the pillars of research ethics, like the respect of patient right or autonomy. The patient should allow to continue or discontinue based on their interest, shouldn't be obliged to be participant of a study. And the other thing is we need to think of the trustworthiness and right to refuse. The second important pillar, we need to think of non-maleficence and beneficence. Doing good and avoiding harm should be there as an ethical pillar. So the other thing, maybe distributive justice, there should be equal access and should be need-based. And the other maybe confidential. The patient data should be confidential. As we heard Mr. Panelist Siraj, data confidentiality nowadays is very important. Not only patient confidentiality, patient information, but also the data should be confidential, like biological data and human resource data should be confidential. So we need kept all these pillars in mind, and this was actually will go back to the Belmont and Helsinki declarations. So starting from that, human ethics is an integral part of research, and we need to think of our research should adhere with the ethical standards. Otherwise, if it has a poorly defined study, it will end up with poor ethics, poor dissemination plan, poor objective, and poor overall outcomes. So this is what I can say with my end. Thank you, Mr. Hailamaram, and back to you.
Thank you, Damaka, for your contextual and semantic presentation of this methodological challenge where most of the researchers are missing while going for research ethics. We really do appreciate that. And we really do believe that this will be a great insight also for our emerging researchers, early career researchers, and so on. Thank you very much. For interest of time, I am going to our third panelist of the day, Dr. Negat Addis. Dr. Negat Addis is Assistant Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology and Gynecologic Oncology from Gondar University, Ethiopia. He works focus on improving maternal care quality, perioperative patient safety, and evidence-based gynecological oncology care. He has key leadership role in chief resident and chief of surgery during his specialty and subspecialty training. Currently, he serves as head of gynecology oncology division and active member of multidisciplinary tumor board member. And Dr. Negat is a researcher with more than 40 scientific publications, including primary study and collaborative research. His research includes gynecology, cancer, reproductive health, surgical outcome, and preventive medicine. He remains an active and integral member of our TORG IRB, okay? So, Dr. Negat, with all due respect, will you please show up with your video so that we can come across with our questions from the board?
Yeah, I think you see it. Is
Yes,
the video,
definitely.
yeah.
I can see you now. Nice to see you, Dr. Negat. So, Dr. Negat, with your all due expertise in perioperative research and expertise in your perioperative care, so many global surgical studies involve vulnerable group, including your patients of gynecologic patients or obstetrics or undeserved populations, right? So what safeguarding should researcher or RB member should prioritize in order to ensure justice, equity, and protection of the vulnerable study subjects? Over to you, Dr. Negat.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me. And I want to say congratulations for reaching this milestone, the second Congress of TORG IRB. As I come back, I think I am audible.
Sure, we can hear you clear.
Yeah. So as we gather to discuss on public health ethics in global surgery, as well as other research areas, I feel we must recognize that many studies take place in vulnerable and underserved populations, including low and middle income countries, and especially vulnerable groups, the pediatric age populations, patients under treatment, and pregnant ladies too. So this reality places a heightened responsibility on researchers and special effort on RB members. So safeguarding thus must ensure justice, equity, and also protection of this vulnerable group of population. So that means engaging these communities in a meaningful way that ensures informed consent that is culturally and linguistically adapted and appropriate. And we should also guarantee that benefits are shared fairly. So it means minimizing, we should minimize the risks, and we should also provide post-trial access to effective interventions and other treatment modalities. For example, in clinical trial, after the trial is over, we should make sure that they will have fair access, post-trial access to these interventions. So in summary, above all, justice requires that no population is targeted simply due to the research, and the research must not be done for the sake or for the good of, for the better sake of science. I mean, for the better generation of knowledge only. It should keep the participants' rights, and it should put the priority of the participants' rights. Okay, so our challenge today is to ensure that global surgical research is not only scientifically rigorous, but it should be ethically transformative. So I want to give a stress on this as a startup. So regarding community engagement, currently, whether it is clinical trial, just implementation researches, even there are IRB committee members are kindly requested to include community leaders in the IRB committee, because those community leaders, elders, might have ethical, culturally sensitive issues to raise. So thus, it needs community engagement, and representative of the community should participate in the research design, and to ensure the cultural sensitivity of the research, to comment on that. The other thing is equitable benefit sharing on research participants. So whether it is capacity building, surgical training, or infrastructure improvement, so it should consider equitable sharing of benefits. The other thing is, culturally and linguistically adapted consent should be there. So we should respect the culture of the society, the community, or a specific group of people. And the questionnaire, the tools we are going to use should be culturally adapted or culturally appropriate, and it should be in language they can understand. In terms of vulnerable group, specifically pregnant childhood age category, and patients who are admitted for treatment. So if possible, we shouldn't include these participants unless the research benefits them, unless there is a specific, there is no specific category of population to work on the study on that. So the risk should be minimized in such a way. But if the research benefits or the work of the research benefits this vulnerable category, and they are the sole target of the study, this may be included. But we should be careful, specifically when involving pregnant ladies in the study. It should be known, the effect should be known before, and it shouldn't create undue effects during the pregnancy period. The other thing is justice in participant selection. So we should avoid targeting populations simply because they are accessible or less likely to refuse. Yeah, because they are easily accessible or less likely to refuse, we shouldn't select patients or target populations based on this criteria only. Selection should be based on scientific necessity and fairness. This is all what I wanted to say. the point you raised, and back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nagats, just to take us to the horizon of point where we need to be very careful of this vulnerable group, pregnant women, pediatric patients, disabled patient, inmate, and so on. We really appreciate that. And also this will be a very important insight for research ethics like TORG, because we are operating in multinational and multicultural areas. It's a collaborative research. It is a multinational research most of the time. So that will be a very important input in our drive to excellence of research ethics. Thank you very much. For time interest, I need to go to another panelist. We do appreciate we'll come with question and answer. Please allow me to go to our fourth panelist of the day. Our fourth panelist of the day is Amara Bellata. Amara Bellata is a lecturer, anesthetist, and clinical epidemiologist at University of Gondar, Ethiopia, with strong experience in clinical care teaching research, and also is actively integrate epidemiology approach into anesthesia practice and patient safety. He's engaged in academic instruction, mentoring, and advancing evidence-based practice within healthcare system. He also focuses on quality improvement initiative, strengthening clinical service, and in addition to his academic activities, he's contributing to research activity and community participation. Amara is an active part of our TORG IRB member, with being one of integral part of reviewing different researches across the globe. So, Amara, will you please show up so that we can communicate? Are you be able to see your video, please, Amara?
Yes. Now on my camera.
That's wonderful. We can clearly see you and hear. Nice to see you, Amara.
Okay. Thank you, our chair, Mr. Helemaria, and thank you, TORG IRB, for convening this important conversation. Good
All right.
morning,
So,
good afternoon. Yes? I'm audible?
Yes, carry on.
Okay. Good evening based on your time zone, everyone.
Okay, Mr. Amara, considering your clinical and research expertise and experience, so from operational standpoint, what are some most common practical challenges where institutions are facing to maintain ethical compliance, especially considering the multinational and multi-center settings? What do you think are the practical challenge? Over to you, Mr. Amara.
Okay. Thank you again, Mr. Helemaria. From the operational standpoint, translating ethical principle into practice is a real challenge. So the gap between approved IRB protocol and what actually happened during the research implementation is where the ethical risks emerge practically or in the real world. From my experience as a research team in different settings, I observed several practical challenges that institutions face repeatedly, not because the researcher lack a goodwill, but because our systems are designed for ethical approval rather than for implementation. To highlight some, first, monitoring gaps. Just IRB approved the protocol, the IRB approved protocol says different monitoring plan exists on paper, but when you see the site visits are infrequent or rare. In general, we are very good at reviewing the protocol before the research begins, but we are less good at knowing what happens after the enrollment starts. And if you see, so for example, informed consent taking process as example, in many research, it sees as commonly they see as a procedural formality or just a tick box exercise rather than taking a well-informed consent. In practice, for example, in practice or in the real world, the research assistant rushes through a consent form due to a patient volume or the participant volume or due to a pressure to meet the enrollment targets. and simply says sign here on the consent form. He says simply sign here, and even the translation is also poor. And the patient sign without understanding. And in this case, we violate the patient's autonomy by without taking an informed consent. Also, the paper says informed consent will be taken on the protocol, but when it comes to the practice, the signature will was obtained rather than informed consent. But this informed consent and signature are two different things. They are not similar. When you see the second, documentation failure. As our first presenter, Dr. Cave says, if you can't document it, we can't prove it. When you see many searches for case report forms are incomplete, consent forms are incomplete. So this documentation failure causes lack of data integrity and inability to verify the ethical compliance. For example, the paper says the adverse will be documented within 24 hours, blah, blah. However, in practice, they will document when they remember. And during that, they will lose different information due to lack of real-time documentation that will put the patients at risk, or this gap will put the participant at risk. And the third one is compliance. On paper, every researcher on the study has a valid ethical training certificate like GCP, and the IRB check that extra. However, when you see the practical, when you see the practical or the real world, all staff know how to complete the training module rather than taking the courage to do ethically. Summarize, we monitor paperwork but not real-time behaviors, and we collect documents but not evidence of ethical action, and we certify training but not ethical courage. Closing the gap between paper and the practice is a work ahead of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Hailemarem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amara, for your insights in the common challenge we are facing, and also it's becoming a trend, also fully trained, where we are breaching the ethics and finally falsify our result. Thank you very much. For time interest, I have to go to our next panelists, and finally, I definitely sure that we will have question and answer from the participant at the end of the session. So please allow me to go to our last but not least panelist, Mr. Masfin Ababa, who is a lecturer and researcher in Dila University. He is actively engaging in research, academic service, while he's also integral part of research ethics in the university he came from. His leadership experience include as research vice director and initial review board member in multiple levels. He contributed to global scholarship as an associate editor of BMC Journal and also African Journal of Health Science. As academic editor for also PLOS ONE. Earlier in his career, he worked as a general midwife professional, but currently he is a lecturer with more than 70 peer-reviewed publications at the global stage, and also significantly helping our IRB team as a reviewer and standout member. So, Mr. Masfin, if you please be able to share your video so that we can differentiate who is Mr. Masfin. Hello, Mr. Masfin, we are still waiting for you. Will you please show up?
He writes something in the chat box because there is a connection problem with him, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't get any response from Ms. Masfan so far?
You write something. I think he faced the problem.
Okay, all right.
with
I think.
connection.
Oh, all right. Okay. For time, interest, and respect of our participants, I think we need to go to the next parts of our question and answer. But before that, being a moderator, I have a power to ask a simple question for my panelists and also our speakers. Then I will give the chance for the audiences to reflect on while waiting for Mr. Masfan. So my question is going to Dr. Abid, Damaka, and Dr. Nagat. If you clearly hear me, I have a question for you, and probably you can reflect on that before we go to the question and answer part. So all of you contextualized the global challenge you are facing in research ethics, especially in perioperative phase. But my question here it comes, what do you believe the biggest ethical governance challenge in global surgery in the coming 5 years? What do you think? What will be our challenge going to be in the coming 5 years? So, Dr. Abis, Dr. Nagat, and Mr. Dambaga, over to you in that order.
Thank you so much for bringing it up. I think it's a very relevant question and something I just wanted to touch on. So, the thing is, I think we now are living in those times where we are actually pushed for rapid innovation. And this race for quick data and meeting the publishing deadlines. I think the biggest challenge is going to be this push for AI integration and development of newer techniques, be it like robotic surgery in our domain. So the thing is, like, if the concern is that we always have to look at, for the research to be ethical, we have to look at the local feasibility and long-term benefits. It doesn't make sense if an outside team wants to test a brand new surgical technique. Let's, for example, take robotic surgery in low research setting, and they set up the equipment and then conduct the study. Now we have to, as clinicians and as IRB, we need to ask that can the local staff safely manage this technique tomorrow? Will this community actually have a proper access to this technology once the study is over? If they don't, then it's not going to be ethical research. Second, I just wanted to touch on this thing that as we are evolving, I think it's time to understand that I think I'm audible. I'm not able to listen.
It's audible, Doctor. You can continue.
Okay. Okay, let me continue. Okay, so the thing is that as IRB, it's time to just step up from a single check at the beginning of the study. What we resort to, we do an assessment, and then we just have to move from this rubber stamping to actual involvement in terms of like enforcing safety milestones and having a mechanism in place to look at the active complication rates as the study progresses. In surgical research, that's more relevant. Like it's going to deal with the procedures, innovations in the procedures, in the techniques, in the equipment. So complications and other things, as and when those arise, we got to have a mechanism to actually review those things from a at regular intervals. And, as IRB, it's our job to stand firm and remind the research community that a patient's life on the operating table is worth, infinitely more than, meeting a faster publication detail. I think that's a major concern going forward in future, that we might be tempted to push for newer and newer technologies, integrating AI, pushing for robotic surgery. And while doing so, we just have to, to sum it up, we have to look at the local feasibility and the benefit to the community in the low resource settings. I think that's it from my side.
Thank you, Dr. Abid. Dr. Nagat, your insight, please.
Thank you.
Dr. Nagat. Yeah.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Hello.
So carry on.
Yeah. I think the challenges may extend what just are existing now, and it may show still rising challenges. For example, if we take equity of access for the surgical innovations and cares over the globe, so there may be rising unmet surgical needs. So we may not address this issue, fair distribution of research benefits, specifically in surgical innovation, robotic surgery. We can take the simple thing, minimal invasive surgery, laparoscopic surgery. There are still setups which are underperforming in this issue. So equity of access to care is one issue. So the other thing is integration of AI-based trials studies. So the consent taking process may be complex. This still remains a challenge. And data and AI ethics, data sharing agreement in the place of or in the presence of AI, I mean the use of AI. So how could make it transparent, equitable data governance? Because the AI agents may be somewhere over the globe, and it may track or collect data everywhere. So this also raises equitable data governance problem. Okay, because it may be monitored centrally in China or somewhere over the globe. So I just mentioned as an example. The other thing, as I have said, benefit sharing, I already mentioned. Funding sustainability in areas of conflict or natural disaster. So this makes still difficult. So those are the issues, mainly the use of AI in research and studies, AI-based trials. This will be the real practical challenge we are going to face. Thank you. Back to you. Back to you, Dr. Mr. Khailamare. Mr. Khailamariam, it's back to you. You can unmute yourself and continue.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nagats, for that insights. Please, Damaka, over to you.
Hello, Mariam, is it audible?
Clear, clear, clear.
Okay, thank you. On top of the issues they mentioned, like the AI black box algorithms, I want to emphasize like the synthetic data and deepfakes. The rise of artificial generated patient data set helps bypass privacy laws, yet it creates risk of scientific frauds, mispresentation, and eroded public trust if fake data are manipulated. So in the coming 5 years, synthetic data and deep fake data are one of my big concerns on top of AI black box algorithms. And the other thing is commercially wearable and continuous surveillances. Health data usually consistently harvested by consumer smart devices outside traditional clinical setting. So this will bring a challenge for our research society and community. And the other one is decentralized trial risks. Moving clinical trial into participant homes via telemedicine improve diversity, but still complicates data security, and it compromises standardized environment. And the other thing maybe genomic explosion in developing nations, and also environmental impact of digital research will impact our research in the coming 5 years. So to address this challenge, as an IRB, we should shift from static to on-time approval model to a dynamic and continuous oversight models. This involves real-time data monitoring algorithm, auditing of biases, and adaptive consent models where participants can alter their data sharing preference at any time. It will be our IRB approach. So these are the pointers we need to address, other than they mentioned. Thank you. Back to you, Hailemariam.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate that insight. That is another paradigm of insights from all of our speakers. So before I go to the participants, I want to nick out Mr. Siraj, Mr. Amara, and Dr. Kevin. That was the question that now we are transiting to the digital platform. We are in the era of AI. So I really want to know your insights. What are the contextual challenge and opportunities of integration of AI in global research ethics? Mr. Amara first, then followed by Mr. Siraj, and Dr. Kevin will be the last to bring his insight. Over to you. Thank you.
Hello?
We can hear you clear.
Okay, so one of the main challenge here, the AI in the future research will be, the ethical challenge will be, as mentioned previously by Mr. Dameka, the privacy issue is the main challenge, the privacy. As well as opportunity, we can see the AI as we can use AI assisted of the ethical protocols. We can use the AI algorithm to check the AI protocol just to assist. I know we can't replace human judgment or assessment with artificial intelligence. However, it can assist. This is the main issue. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Amara. Mr. Siraj, over to you, please.
Thank you all, and thank you for the moderator. I think AI integration in research is an inevitable approach in scientific world. It's not that something that we can avoid it and we can push it out. Rather, we have to accommodate the environment and the guidelines and the approaches that how the integration of AI in research has to be the supportive of the real or the main objective of research. As we know, the main objective of research is to reveal the new approaches, new systems, new innovations with the systematic approach that simplifies our day-to-day activities, especially in health system research. Our objective is to simplify our health systems, patient care, and the like. So, ethics during AI needs to be managed in a careful way. As we know, AI is invented to help people their day-to-day activities, including our research. For example, in AI, in ethics, so AI may use to check whether our research protocols are and in its manner so that it's able to maintain patient safety and the like. So it's not something that we can avoid it, but it has to be regulated. It has to be with a proper guideline. So every institution, I think, wherever we go for the research in any patient subjects or patient groups, AI is not available, so we have to make it with proper guidelines. So we need to have a AI guideline in anywhere. That's what we have to do because we can't avoid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Siraj. Last but not least, Dr. Kevin, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Hanemar. This is a very interesting topic to bring up because it's very relevant to our, of course, our research world today. So the bottom line that I want to say is that, of course, AI opens a new exploration of different gray areas. And of course, the research landscape is already filled with different gray areas from, let's say, authorships or conflicts of interests. And AI is just another layer that makes it more complex. What I want to emphasize here is that I recall reading something like over the past few weeks is something about like how we prepare national research ecosystems for AI. I think it's from the International Science Council. It highlights there about like national AI strategies rarely include the science specific detail, especially on how it's integrated into scientific research. And the most important thing that I want to emphasize here, there is a lack of research specific governance frameworks within national AI strategies, and that is a critical gap. Because what I want to emphasize here is that, of course, regardless, the inevitable AI will be integrated in research. And of course, governance is not just saying, don't do this, don't do that. It's also about showing the way, of course, rather than just, let's say, in one direction. Because sooner or later, it all feel like AI is just going to feel like another calculator. All right. Yeah, that's it from me. Back to you, Haile Mariam.
Sorry. Carry on, Dr. Kevin. Carry on.
Yeah. So I think that's just the emphasis on the points I want to emphasize. And yeah, even just talking about here will not be enough to talk about benefits, because we also have to consider aspects such as specific guidelines for authors, for editors, for reviewers, and the readers. Like let's say for authors, disclosure, ensuring originality. For editors, of course, final decisions need to be human-led. And of course, that introduces another kind of worm, such as, let's say, confidential manuscripts, sensitive data. let's say if you upload, let's say, a confidential manuscript to some public AI tool, that's another thing to be concerned about. Then, of course, for reviewers, that's another same dimension as well, like confidential manuscripts. And of course, for readers, let's say the consumers of, let's say, research. Of course, there are also tools on AI like that usually just summarize, let's say, research. There's a thing that we need to consider if we need to take whatever that AI says wholesale, especially if when it comes to, let's say, multilingual translation, or at least simplify the insights. Because the trends, if you have a whole bunch of papers to read, then you just want to summarize it to AI. And then at the end of the day, there's still some kind of verification, and there's still the humanity behind it. So yeah, I think we can really go on a deep dive in it, but that's what I want to say from my end for now.
Thank you, Dr. Kevin, for that insight. And I think now we got Mr. Masfen online. I already introduced Masfen for the public, but unfortunate for us, he was not online. Mr. Masfen, can you hear us, please? Mr. Masfen, will you please hear us? That be able to listen from you? Okay, so I think for time, interest, and respect of our participant, we have to move on to the next session. Now our session is it's for the public. It is for our participants. If you have any questions, any clarity, any additional point, and any compliment regarding the discussion so far, the floor is really open for our participants. Actually, we were expecting you to drop your question in the chat box, but we couldn't see any here. But still, the floor is open for all of you. With all due respects, we can still waiting for your questions. Okay, I think we have one question from the chat box from Feliberto Gracias from United Arab Emirates. It's privilege to have you. Gracias. So the question is that how should authors document and defend a non-human subject research determination when submitting operational improvement, quality improvement, and sustainable studies based on retrospective departmental data and peer-reviewed journal? So I wish you're supposed to put a question from a name of the speaker or the panelist, but I can still rely on this question for
Yeah, hello, Doc. Sir, can I?
Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
carry on.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for having me. By the way, I'm Felix from Abu Dhabi. I would like to address actually the question to Dr. Kevin, since he's for his topic a while ago.
Oh yeah. I think, yeah, for this one, document defend non-human subjects research, especially on this. I think that would have to depend, of course, on what is the overall intention in this. Like, let's say, what is the intention of this study? I think you may need to be a bit more specific here, because I cannot give something that is pretty much generalized for whatever specificity. But to the best of what I know, yeah, go ahead. I'll try to answer first, and you can feel free to follow up, so I can just add that to your points.
Yes, thank you, Doc. By the way, my field of expertise and research, I'm currently connected as a CSSD professional, and I'm doing research on governance, sustainability, and those things. That's my current research interest. So normally, as a manager of the department, we have a lot of operational data that we are using. Since we are not directly handling patients, we are just supporting. So that's the question I ask, since how I can depend that one, since we are not doing human subjects. I submitted at least two proposal to our IRB, and I just telling them that actually we're not even doing a survey for our, since these are operational data, technical data. So that's what leading to my questions, Doc.
Oh, all right, all right. I see, I see. I see where you're coming from. I think the most important thing here first that you need to consider is what is the nature of the data there. Of course, some data can just, let's say, be aggregated, or let's say it does it really deal with, at least in your industry, it's a name, let's say certain names or people. Example, let's say if it's in the insurance industry per se, let's say the data there might be aggregated and actually, let's say, not actually be, you won't be able to identify there. So at least I am basing also this from, let's say, guidelines per se. Like I'm using the example, at least what we do in, let's say, the TORG IRB. Let's say if it's really non-human, then there might be certain exemptions. Let's say you can exempt the study. Then of course, at least when you design the protocol, you at least need to address how at least it's made. The basis of it, let's say if it's retrospective, the confirmation that you really need confirmation that the study did not really involve interaction with human participants. That is very, very important. Like you're just looking at records, anonymized records. That's why it goes back to my point earlier about, is it aggregated data? Let's say if you want test results, let's say medical records for, let's say blood pressure or anything, lab results, would you be able to identify the person there? Then another emphasized point here, especially in regards to your question about, let's say, peer reviews and editors. Let's say if it's just quality improvement, there's still the possibility that it still contains identifiable information. The most important thing here is really de-identified information. Remove names, dates of birth, medical record numbers, anything that can be tracked. That's why I was also pretty emphasizing on the paper trail aspect, especially the compliance element. So yeah, I think the idea there is, of course, regardless on your case, at least there's still a need to at least submit it to an IRB. And of course, let it decide if there's the need for exemption, especially on the nature of your study per se. So yeah, I think that hopes that answers your question. Like if that's comprehensive enough. Now let's say if you have follow-ups, if you want to further clarify. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. I think I have two questions. Let me just share it to the group chat so it will be more clarity. It's connected to the first question, because that's what I'm saying, Doc, because my research interest is moving on more on healthcare sustainability and framework. If you can just guide me on the last question that is connected to the first one, please. By the way, thank you for the TORG for posting I won the essay for the first place in the recent CSSD best what you call this one best essay competition. Thank you so much, TORG, for for posting that one a while ago. I deeply appreciate it.
Okay, Dr. Gracias, thank you. Still, this question, Dr. Kevin and Dr. Abid, we want your reflection on this point, and also I will come back later. Dr. Abid, will you please go to the second question? Development question from Dr. Gracias.
Hello, thank you so much. I think I can read out the question as well. If a project originates as a routine operational management activity using retrospective departmental data and is later presented at a conference or published in a journal, does dissemination itself change the ethical classification, or should classification be based on the original purpose and methodology? Yes, I think Dr. Kevin already touched it and very lucidly that the data needs to be, even if it's a retrospective data, but this is the data is actually the patient's property. It's the patient's right to have that protected. And the concern with the retrospective study is that, at times you have not actually, you see, the difference is if you go for a prospective study, you actually keep the patient well informed, you keep the participants well informed, you have their consent, you have, explained everything to them, and you have in some way sought some permission to actually use their data in one way or the other. The problem with retrospective analysis is that the patient is taken out of question. The stakes are much lower for the patient. So that's where I think the role of the IRB or the local authorities, I mean the concerned center, comes into play, where they have to actually ensure that that is a de-identified data, so that in no way contains the personal information or something that's very private to individuals that will lead to identification. I think that's the crux of it. Like if you got to use de-identified data and in line with the protocols of the respective place, and it varies from person to person. I think most of the descriptive or observational studies are okay if you use a de-identified data with and you seek a proper approval from the concerned institutional review board. So that should be okay. I think de-identification is a must, and without that, I don't think that you can go ahead with any data, even if it's retrospective.
Okay, Doc. Thank you so much, Dr. Abid.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abid, and also Dr. Gracias for your question and valuable question. So the second question is that it is from Mr. Worka from Ethiopia. He say for lower middle income countries, there is a double burden due to unmet need for surgery and rapid growth of AI integration and MIV surgery. You can help me with that abbreviations in high income countries. So he stated that how to harmonize this need globally. I think this question is going to Dr. Nugats. We want to hear your reflection on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a valid question, and it cannot be answered with a single statement, but it needs stepped implementation to tackle this. I think MIV is to mean MIS, minimal invasive surgery. So regarding the unmet need, yeah, we health professionals, surgeons, perioperative care providers, we should advocate on international collaborations to improve the surgical care. And as mentioned from the introduction, there is a huge number of global population with in need of surgery, but still with unmet need. Okay, So let alone in low and middle income countries, there is a huge burden globally even. So we should advocate as a leader, as a healthcare advocate. We should give an input for the healthcare administrators, for the national policymakers, so that this can be achieved through national, international, and international collaborations. We can just mention 1,000, 2,000 collaborations or other means of collaboration, so that this unmet need can be at least minimized. Okay. The other thing, rapid growth of AI integrated minimal invasive surgery in high income countries. How can we harmonize this to the low income countries? As I have said, for the initial, we can extend this answer for this too through international collaborations. Okay. Through advocating quality improvement projects. It can be done at the nation level, but this needs high scale implementation at the national level. So we can take into account to give feedback for the national policymakers, and sister universities should have experience sharing over the globe. Okay, so we can minimize the gap in that way. Otherwise, it may be a huge burden just to solve it at once. And I think this global collaboration has also to work on specialty and fellowship programs. I think there is a professional development plan in that way. Professional trainings, fellowship programs will bridge this gap, and it will narrow the difference from the high-income countries in the near future. That is what I have to say, but the one who asked the question, I think, Worko, can also reflect his insight. The question may not remain limited to be answered by me only. Back to you all.
Thank you very much. That's comprehensive, and the insight was wonderful. Still, and I like the way you flip the question and the insight back to the doctor who asked the question. That's wonderful. That's how we can integrate the knowledge, skill, and experience all together as a TORG community. So
this title, you should prepare one seminar sessions on this title. Otherwise, we will not cover in just 2-3 minutes, and our session is almost ending. So let us take it as homework for all other TORG members and all clinicians who is involved in these seminars. Thank you.
wonderful. That's noted from TORG Clinical Education and Global Advocacy Department. That's well noted, and also from TORG IRB. There will be a session, and you will be getting engaged. Thank you very much. So how to?
As we discussed earlier, a good study design will answer a study question. So if you want to study the efficacy of a drug comparatively or single drug efficacy, the appropriate methodology to address a research question might be randomized clinical trials. But if you want to compare just not the efficacy or a first phase study, sometimes if you think of the techniques like, for instance, regional blocks, like paravertebral block efficacy against epidural using bupivacaine or adjuvantes, you can address such questions using a cohort study. But if you think of comparing the drugs efficacy by themselves, the appropriate methodology might be experimental study. So as I mentioned earlier, a good study design have a good sound ethical values. But if the methodology fails, the ethical issue will be raised at any time, even after publication of the journal, the paper. So what we should be reminded is that there is no direct answer for this question, but if you think of comparing the efficacy of drugs, as I mentioned earlier, the appropriate methodology might be randomized clinical trials. It doesn't mean court study may not be used, but think of the appropriate methodology, feasibility, and ethical soundability of your research. Thank you. Back to you, Bake.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for insight, Dr. Damaka. This will be the last. Dr. Kevin, it is over to you. You are kindly invited to close the session. And Dr. Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. So yeah. So
Yes.
thank you everyone.
My time fell short in here.
Yeah. So thank you everyone. As we close the TORG IRB second annual ethics congress, I want to take a moment on just to reflect on what we heard today. So we opened this with a conversation about documentation, review compliance, the governance foundations that hold research together. Mr. Suraj then brought up into the realities of multinational and resource-limited settings, where the foundations are tested the most. Then, of course, in our panel discussion, Dr. Abid reminded us that ethical governance is at its core a clinical safety net. And informed consent must account for the information asymmetry that exists in healthcare, especially in underprivileged communities. Professor Demeka emphasized that poor methodology itself an ethical issue and that feasibility, clarity, and scientific rigor are not optional. Dr. Nigat spoke to the protection of vulnerable populations, the importance of community engagement, and the need for culturally appropriate, equitable research practices. Mr. Amare brought us back towards the operational side, the monitoring gaps, the documentation, and the compliance challenges that happen after a study begins, not just before it. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Haile Mariam for moderating a panel discussion that brought all of these threads together. So on behalf of the Operating Room Global, I would like to sincerely thank our speakers and everyone here for valuable insights and our participants joining across from different countries, time zones, and professional backgrounds. We recognize that many of you are participating despite your busy clinical schedules, varying internet access, and language differences. We truly appreciate your commitment to learning and to improving surgical and perioperative care in your local settings. Please feel free to share key lessons from today's session within your teams, institutions, and professional networks as part of strengthening safe and effective practice globally. We encourage you to remain connected with TORG through our upcoming webinars, training programs, and research activities, which are published on our website and across our official platforms. So to receive your TORG accredited training certificate, please take note of the following. First, immediately after this session, the evaluation and certification form will open in the browser on your device and remain active for 24 hours only. Then, certificates are issued within 5 to 7 working days after successful submission. Evaluation is mandatory for accreditation, and certificates are linked to your TORG membership ID. Once again, everyone, thank you for being part of our TORG global community. We wish you a safe, productive day or evening ahead, wherever you are joining from. Thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to supporting your continued professional development with the Operating Room Global.